Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Pot Up Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care, folks. We got a good show lined up today. Normally it's Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup on a Thursday. We're going to skip that this week because I thought it was important. We're going to have Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com, who basically he covers all sports, majority of basketball. He spent the day with Patrick Young last week, wrote a great piece. It's hard to read, quite honestly, just what happened to Patrick. But we're going to have him come on. If you got any questions, shoot them to us. He'll be joining us about 8:35. But in the meantime, the NFL kicks off tonight. You got the defending Super Bowl champs, the LA Rams, hosting who I think will be this year's Super Bowl champs, the Buffalo Bills. So it should be a good one. Everybody cleared it up for us yesterday. This week, Thursday Night Football will be on NBC, thank goodness. But after that, I'm going to have somebody come show me how to watch Amazon Prime or whatever the hell it's called. In the meantime, let's go to the Titan Mark text line. We're joined by our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Good morning. Good to be with you. Great to see you in the swamp last Thursday night and that monumental win. Great job on the call. Really enjoyed that. So, listen, this is a great week of football in the SEC. Frankly, it's a much, much better week than last week was, day after. But I was quite pleased to see the playoffs expanding. And look, it's important to note here, this was not the commissioners that did this. That this was the presidents. They actually got together and decided. And this was the board of managers, is what they call them. It was a group of presidents. They had a unanimous vote, which is important. Now, to follow up on this, they meet today in Dallas to get to work on this. And they've got to deal with game dates, revenue distribution, media rights, how are the bowls involved? Are you going to pay the athletes? There are numerous issues to be involved here. And the presidents made it very clear. And they said, we want this up and going by at least 24, 25 instead of 26. So good for them. I mean, look, if you can come up with a schedule in a matter of days during a COVID year when you've got, 2 years, 3 years to put together an expanded playoff, it can be done. So hopefully they will get going today and get off to a good start.
We got a couple Facebook Lives here brought to you by Melton Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. I don't remember hearing this, but Scott says, Brent, you said before the season that you thought Brian Kelly would be more successful than Billy Napier. Are you still sticking to that prophecy?
I don't remember saying that. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not sure who said that, but it wasn't me. But I will say that I thought at the beginning of the season that LSU may end up in second place in the West. Now, the thing we've got to remember is Brian Kelly had forgotten how to coach. Now, they were not prepared for Florida State, and Florida State was prepared for LSU. But even with all that said, you've still got LSU on a 99-yard drive to trying to tie it up or to go ahead. So they will get better as the season goes along, but it was not a good opening performance. But they've still got tremendous players, and we'll get into that in a few minutes when we kind of preview the Southern game. because they lost some really important players on the defensive side of the ball. But no, it was a very forgettable and regrettable performance by LSU, but they will get much better as the year goes along. Kelly will be fine, but I think everybody knows how high I am on Napier.
Yep. Andy asked here, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. He wanted to know, why would SEC Nation go to Vandy versus Wake Forest instead of coming to the game here in Gainesville this week?
They do some odd things, and they try to go to some different games that you wouldn't think about. And here's the reality, probably for them, is they're not going to have a chance to cover Vanderbilt very often. So let's be honest about that. So, and Vandy's undefeated, and the other reality is and Sam Hartman is actually back for Wake Forest after having a blood clot issue, which sounds really rough, but technology is an amazing thing. So he's going to be able to play. So Shane, my guess on that is it was that they'll go to a kind of an under the radar game rather often. I mean, I certainly get the question because Kentucky, Florida is one of the most important games of the day by far, but they will do that from time to time, and they probably thought this one the few times that they could go and see Vanderbilt, especially with Vanderbilt undefeated.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been there, quite honestly. Text on the Titan Mark text line from Ryan. He says, "Good morning, fellas. Clearly, Florida wasn't able to pressure Cam Rising, so it's promising to hear what Mike Morgan said yesterday about Will Levis running for his life against Miami, Ohio. I wouldn't think Miami, Ohio's front line is the second coming of the Steel Curtain, so hopefully we can get to Levis. Brent, is Doug Peterson going to have the Jags at least watchable, in your opinion, or will they be a dumpster fire again this year? I'm a huge Doug Peterson guy. I think they're going to be pretty good.
They'll be a little better. But people need to understand here, they just don't have the roster yet. And I don't care what level you're on, and Shane's played on every level. It takes a while, don't it, Shane, to get your roster together and get your people together and to get on the same page. There's a learning curve every time you move somewhere in the first year. So I think they will be better. They're not going to win 7, 8, 9 games. They just don't have the players to do that. But it won't be what they had under Urban, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Speaking of Ryan, getting to the quarterback, we could talk. I got a couple of quotes here from Billy. I didn't screenshot this one, but I responded to somebody that Billy's quote about not getting to Cam Rising. He says, "We had a lot of one-on-one matchups. We just didn't win them. And so we need to win them in the future," meaning reading between the lines, Billy and I are on the same page. Our D-line better play better and get to the quarterback, is all I'm saying. So
let me say too, real.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, let me say again, and Shane and I have been saying this for several months, that Utah team is a good football team. Yeah. And they've got more experience than Florida does. They're harder to block. Shane's right. The D line's got to step it up. But the thing I've tried to say all week too is give Utah some credit. They were ranked in the top 10 this year for a reason.
No question about it. Speaking with Brent Beaird here on the Titan MR hotline, are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Darling Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker in Parish, will provide you with fast, friendly, and reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. All right, let's jump straight into Alabama. Is going to be rolling to Austin, Texas. And Brent, I just got a feeling this is going to be a beaten down for Bevo and the boys.
Texas has got like 7 freshmen who are starting, and they're too deep. And a lot of those are on the offensive line, and that is a real mismatch with Alabama. Now, they're going to have to do a lot of screens, misdirection type stuff with Quinn Ewers at quarterback. Now, Sark, I think, is going to do a good job at Texas, and they've got some real players. I mean, this Bijan Robinson at running back and Xavier Worthy at wide receiver are really, really fine players. But the thing Shane and I have been talking about Texas now for about 3 months is they don't have the line of scrimmage to win a game like this. I'm not saying they can't score a few points, and the game's at noon. Game day is there. The Big Ten's, their show is there too. And there'll be a lot of excitement, a lot of hype with it being on Fox. But it's going to be a slower process for Texas in order to win this game. And Bama played really well. They were very efficient their first game against Utah State. They do get Cameron Latu back, the tight end, so that's going to help them. So it'll be a fun helmet game, at least for a while. But in Texas, we'll get better. But this is a game, and Shane's right. If Bama plays a clean game and doesn't make a lot of mistakes, they'll win the game comfortably.
I didn't get to see any Alabama against Utah State. I just saw some highlights and the stats. I saw where Bryce Young, I mean, he threw 5 touchdowns, I think, or something like that, but he ran for over 100 yards.
Yes.
And we know he's a good little athlete. I don't know if you saw it or not, Brent, but are they trying to implement him? Because last year, I don't think they had any type of zone reads or anything like that. He was like a pure drop back passer. Are they implementing that into the system now for him?
Maybe just a little, but the reality of it is, I think a lot of these runs were. I talked to some Alabama media who were there. There were a couple of runs to where Bryce ran around the end, and it was I don't know if you ever had this experience, Shane, but he got around the corner, and the funny thing about it is there wasn't anybody there.
Well, so that never happened for me. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
But it must have been very similar to Anthony's long run when he escaped the pocket the other night. There was nobody there.
Yeah. I mean, literally, there wasn't anybody there, and for Shane, for a couple of seconds, he actually didn't know what to do. But he just kept running. But no, he's too valuable for them to have any designated plays. Now, look, I'm not saying they can't do that from time to time, but a lot of his runs in this game were, there's somebody in front of me, so I'm going to tuck it and go. And that's more what happened than anything else. But I'll be curious if you get a chance to watch the Texas game, and you would understand this better than anybody is. He has gotten to the point now where he is very efficient. He knows where everybody is, on where everybody should be on every play, and he really has mastered this offense. Frankly, that O'Brien has got, and that's where he has improved.
Yep, no doubt about it. Arkansas hosts South Carolina in Fayetteville this week. Big win for them against Cincinnati. What do you see in this game?
Cincinnati's really good. We can't forget that. Luke Fickell's done a great job in this game. I think Arkansas wins this game. South Carolina is going to get better, but I don't think that Spencer Rattler's ready to win this game with the crew that he's got around him. Now, here's something to keep in mind. South Carolina blocked 2 punts against Georgia State. So Arkansas has worked on that the entire time. Arkansas's defense played really well, too. Drew Sanders, Alabama transfer, has been very good. What I don't know yet is Cantlon, their defensive back who was hurt last year, came back, all-SEC player. He got banged up. How quickly he'll be able to play. KJ Jefferson was very good, 18-26 for 223, 62 yards rushing. This will be a fun and I think a very important game. It's an under-the-radar game in a lot of ways, but I just think you've got a situation where Arkansas has been together longer. I think they've got better players and the better roster, and that shows up. But that will be fascinating to see how South Carolina handles this game on the road.
Yeah. John asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law. He asked me, who's better, the Monday Night Crew, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, or Peyton and Eli? I mean, Peyton and Eli, I like watching them. It doesn't matter who's broadcasting the other game, just because they're funny as hell to me. But Peyton and Eli both are going to give you the perspective of a quarterback and what they're thinking. And not that Troy Aikman can't do that. He just can't because they have an actual broadcast going on.
Yes.
So Auburn hosts San Jose. Anything coming out of this game, Brent?
I think the battle between T.J. Finley and Robbie Ashford is pretty interesting. They are trying to get both of those guys up to speed. Finley was 9 of 14 for 112. Ashford has the ability to run better, and Finley's got a little bit of that too. Tank Bigsby is obviously the star. He had 150 yards in the game. Now, we need to see improvement in this game, and the reason why is next weekend Penn State comes to Auburn, and that will be a game that we'll talk about a good bit. J.J. Evans, wide receiver from Auburn, is transferring in the game too. Siobhan Cordero is the former Hawaii quarterback that's transferred to San Jose State.
Gators host Kentucky. Big game in the Swamp again. It's sold out. A lot of people had a lot of love for Kentucky. I know they're going to be missing a bunch of people in here, but it's still a very well-coached team that's given the Gators fits the last few years.
Can't forget that. I mean, it's 2-2 the last 4 years, and I can tell you this: Florida is not going to have the amount of penalties they did last year in that game, and still had a chance to win it. Now, a couple things that we need to know about. One is Ramon Jefferson, a running back, tore his ACL. They really liked him in the scrimmages in the preseason. That was very unfortunate. Tavion Robinson is a wide receiver, transfer from Virginia Tech. He had 136 yards last week in their win over Miami of Ohio. This kind of went under the radar, too. Mark Stoops actually tied the Kentucky coaching record of 60 wins set by Coach Paul Bear Bryant. People forget Bryant coached at Kentucky, and so that's quite a mark, to say the least. Big kick return, Berrien Brown, a freshman, went 100 yards in the Miami of Ohio game, so keep in mind with that. We still don't know for sure about Chris Rodriguez, if he's going to play or not. Kentucky people would tell you probably not, but we don't know. They're being very coy about that at this point. So, and Shane, again, I'll be very brief about that, about this. I was at the game, very impressed with the crowd, very impressed with what Billy Napier's done with his football team. Richardson was tremendous. We said their strength is the offensive line and the running game. Got a lot to do in the passing game. Maury Burney's interception was just, frankly, amazing in a lot of ways. So great improvement. And look, I want to see a show of hands on 75. If Florida wins this game, how many people thought they'd be 2-0 after 2 games?
Yep, no doubt about it. We got a text on the Titan Mark text line from an anonymous texter. He says, do you think Kentucky was looking ahead to Florida? That is why they looked poor against Miami of Ohio, maybe holding back to surprise us. I mean, who knows? I'm trying to think back last year when Kentucky and some of these teams, I mean, even ourselves, when we played some of those kind of teams, it's just different. I can promise you.
Sure.
They're going to come ready to play Saturday night.
No doubt.
I will promise you that.
No doubt.
Yeah. This is another text here. Said Vegas and the AP are really high on the Gators now. Yeah, it looks that way. I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard of a team jumping all the way to 12. Coach Spurrier and I did a show Tuesday, and we both thought they'd be like 22 or 23. I think the coaches had them at 19, which is about right, I think. So we'll see. I mean, just got to play. I saw this stat. I think I talked about it. Billy Napier's won 12 consecutive one-score games as a head coach.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Yes.
And Dan Mullen has lost 8 straight one-score games.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. And no doubt. Now Jaden Hill is back to practice. I think that's good. We don't know what all that means right now, but he's just back, and that's important. Lorenzo Lingard's back. I'm sure you've dealt with that. But yes, that's a very interesting stat. Now, I'll say this and be done with Kentucky. They only ran for 50 yards against Miami of Ohio on 26 rushing attempts. Sure, Shane, we can see why they need Chris Rodriguez back in a hurry.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see what Stoops and those guys do. I like Cavassier Smoke. Obviously, he didn't run well last week. Whether that's the offensive line, I don't know. I think he's a really good player. The Georgia Bulldogs, a lot of people think were the most impressive team in America last week. What Stetson Bennett did, what they did defensively. What can you tell us about the Dogs?
Yeah, Bennett was 25 of 31 for 368. That's amazing. Georgia scored touchdowns on his first 7 possessions. The game was over quickly. Shane and I are used to either bad Bo Nix or good Bo Nix. Well, this is bad Bo Nix, to say the least. Georgia confused him very much in the game. Georgia allowed 0 touchdowns for the 5th time in the last 16 games. It was the 13th time during that span they didn't allow a rushing touchdown. That, I don't care who you are, that's amazing when you think about that. Now, do I need to say anything more about Samford than what Gator fans are aware of? But this Samford's a pretty nice little team. Again, they run a nice offense, as folks remember. They're not great, but they can be very efficient with that. So we just throw that out there, and they'll win that game easily. But the thing for Georgia is that after Samford next week, another big game next week, they go to Columbia and play South Carolina. So keep in mind, a lot of these teams this week, like Auburn playing Penn State, Georgia playing South Carolina, they're setting themselves up for what will be very important conference games in 7 days.
Brian asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mental Law, you think we'll see more tight end play? We play a ton of tight ends. We play too many, in my opinion. That is not a strength of our team. But Billy loves playing. He's always going to have one tight end in there.
Sure.
He loves 2 tight end formations. We played with it a lot the other night. But I think you'll see them go out and recruit some legit tight ends in the next few years, because we ain't great at that position right now. Brent, we're going to skip over LSU. They're playing Southern. An interesting game. Two undefeated teams. Mississippi State was very impressive in what they did. Will Rogers is outstanding in that system. They're traveling out to Arizona, playing Arizona, who came off a win, which they don't win many games, but Jed Fish, who used to be a graduate assistant under Steve Spurrier, is now the head coach. Should be an interesting game late night after everybody gets back from the swamp.
Listen, people haven't looked at this yet. This game starts. Starts at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Think about that a minute. I don't remember, and I've been covering this league for 4 or 5 decades. And Shane, you might, but I don't ever remember an 11 p.m. kickoff for an SEC team, even when you're going out west. So we all may need a nap. Well, before that one, but Will Rogers was 38 of 49, 450 yards, 5 touchdowns in the game. So they played really well. They ran 83 plays in the game, too. So they were 11 of 13 on 3rd down. So they were clicking, to say the least. Arizona beat San Diego State. Jed Fish is the coach now in Arizona. Jaden Day Laura is from Washington State. He is their quarterback. So it will be a nice little challenge for them. So I think State will win the game. Certainly, if they play within themselves and continue the good work by. I'm curious what you think about Will Rogers. I know they dink and dunk a lot, but I tell you what, he is really effective, isn't he, Shane?
He is. People got to remember he never redshirted either, and he's extremely smart and extremely accurate. He's a perfect fit. He ran that kind of system at his high school there in Mississippi, so he's a perfect fit. A couple more games I want to get to that are very intriguing. It's an old Big 8 matchup. Missouri's playing Kansas State, and a lot of people love the Kansas State Wildcats this year for some reason.
Yeah, they do. Brady Cook, Missouri quarterback, did well in 18 of 27, 201. So that worked out well for them. Chris Kleelman, the Kansas State coach, is 21 and 16. Eli Drinkwith is 12 and 12 in that game too. As far as what he's done so far, something for people to consider. The Kansas State quarterback is Adrian Martinez, who came over from Nebraska. Remember him, Shane? Wasn't a real great quarterback at Nebraska. I think so far so good at Kansas State. But you're right. A lot of people like them. I think they like their defense particularly. So no doubt that's another under the radar interesting ball game.
And then another one, Pitt, who's coming off a huge win in the Backyard Brawl, hosting the Vols. This was a very intriguing game.
I don't like this matchup between Pitt's defensive line, which is the second best defensive line in the ACC, versus Tennessee's offensive line. Now, another issue for Tennessee, they played Ball State, and let's be honest here, Ball State's not very good. Now, they did find Hendon Hooker was 18 to 25. They ran the ball well. Cedric Tillman was 6 for 68. The receiver. But what bothers me about this Tennessee defense is that in the Ball State game, they had 0 sacks. They had 2 tackles for loss. They had 7 hurries, which means something. But that's a bit concerning. So I don't know if they'll be able to block Pitt. I mean, this would be a pretty close game. Keaton Slovis for Pitt, I think, did well. So keep your eye on that one. This is a really important game for Tennessee, and again, the game is at Pitt.
Yeah, I'm anxious to watch this because Pat Narduzzi can coach the defense now, and want to see what he tries to do against the fast-paced offense of Tennessee. But can Tennessee stop anybody? Another kind of intriguing game, the Aggies, who sputter around, it seems like every game they play. They're playing App State, who can score now. They got a kid who's played quarterback at a bunch of different schools, Clemson, Duke, and now at App State. This could be a sneaky game for the Aggies.
It could be. App State's a problem. Haynes King was 20 of 31, 364. They only ran for 110 yards. Devin Achane had 42. Anaya Smith had a big game with 164. The defense played well, 3 sacks and 6 quarterback hurries. People need to pay attention to this A&M defense. The defensive line has been a major upgrade. Now, DJ Durkin, who we all know, is the new coordinator at Texas A&M. He's done a good job. Max Johnson actually got in a little bit at quarterback too. Now, Appalachian State probably should have beat North Carolina, 63 to 61 on Gene Shizik's defense. Appalachian State had 659 yards. Chase Bryce the former Clemson quarterback, is the quarterback at App State, threw for 361. Now I think the defense will put some pressure on him, but Shane's right that this thing could be a fun game. Now A&M's going to win, but don't be surprised if App State makes this uncomfortable for a while.
Yeah, Brent, great stuff as always. Time goes way too fast. We got to get to Chris Harry. He's going to give us some update on Patrick Young and talk a little hoops. But we appreciate your time, and we will enjoy the games, and we will talk to you next week, my man.
Shane, I'm going to leave you with this. The LSU plays the Southern Jaguars. Mm-hmm. They won last week. Southern won last week, 86-0.
Ooh.
They beat Florida Memorial University in Miami. Have you ever heard of Florida? Have you ever heard of them?
No. They need a running clock like high school.
We will look forward to hearing from Chris. Thanks, Shane, and it's going to be a fun Saturday in the SEC.
It really is. That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. Take a quick time out. Come back. We'll be joined by senior writer Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Escape Apology, F45 Training, Regal Cinemas, Dave & Buster's, Nike, Prime and Pearl, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Now selling Head Beer Coach American Lager in 16-ounce cans, available at Spurrier's Visors and at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. You will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. Now we're going to the Titan MR Hotline. We're joined by senior writer, FloridaGators.com, the other senior writer, that is, Chris Harry. Good morning, Chris. How are you, my man?
Shane, how are you this morning?
Doing well. I wanted to get you on. Obviously, we talked to you a lot during basketball season. They are practicing right now, but the devastating news we all heard several months ago, what happened to Patrick Young, the Gator great, just a good person. It's hard to believe. But you went and spent some time with him in Jacksonville, wrote a great piece. Let everybody know, if they haven't read that, where they can see that. But just kind of tell us what that was like.
The story is on FloridaGators.com. Well, I didn't know what to expect. And I talk about this a little bit in the story. I don't know. Really, what jumped out at me was a couple weeks ago, Patrick Shane went on did a live interview with Paul Feinbaum. And I don't know if you saw it or if any of your viewers saw it, but it was about as upbeat as anything you could possibly imagine, given this young man's circumstances. And you could tell in the interview that even Feinbaum was like tilting his head a little bit, going, "Good grief, this is amazing." And I actually talked to Paul for this story, and he said the same thing. When he got into office that day, his producer said, "We got Patrick Young lined up for an interview today," and he didn't know what to expect from it, and got knocked upside the head with Patrick's incredible optimism. So fast forward to me showing up there last week. I pull up to his house, and he's got this new house that he's moving into that he and his young family bought, or are renting rather, and it's kind of disheveled. They're just moving in, and he's sitting in the middle of this garage in a wheelchair, and it struck me because I covered him. I started this job in 2011, which was his junior year, and he to this day remains probably the favorite person that I've had to deal with. Not perfect. He was never perfect, and he will admit as much. But he was always real and cared about other people. And just to see him at first in that way, and then we go inside, and then for the next 2.5 hours, he told his story and told his new reality, and his new reality is optimistic. He doesn't say I'm going to walk again. He says I will do everything in my power. Unlike my time as a basketball player, when Coach Donovan would tell me that you're not given everything. He goes, when I'm through with this fight, he goes, I'll never look back and say I didn't do everything in my power to try to walk again. But in the interim, Shane, he knows it's a process, and he also knows it does nobody, especially him, any good to start wondering, why me? What if? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I think about doing this to avoid being here? He's here, and there's no changing that. And he says it's like having Billy Donovan in his ear saying, next play. You just turn the ball over. You just missed 2 free throws. Next play. This is the ultimate next play circumstance for him. And it's not a game. It's the game of life.
Yeah. And, he was out in Denver for a while, right? At some rehab facility there. He went from there to Jacksonville.
That's right. And it's not just a rehab facility. It's a world-renowned neuro rehabilitation facility. There's three of them in this country, one in Atlanta, one in Chicago, and the one he went to in Denver. And apparently Billy Donovan knew somebody who knew the Nuggets who was able to kind of get him in there. And their whole goal there, it's a 90-day program designed to get a paraplegic or quadriplegic, set them up to as close to independence as they can get. It's a 90-day program. Pat was out in 42. That's how aggressive he was in attacking this rehab situation and this, whatever you want to consider his new normal. His mom was there for most of the time. I skipped right over this part. He was engaged to be married on July 9th in Omaha, Nebraska, in front of 200 people. The accident, I believe, was June 24th. The two of them, he and his wife, Whitney, got married in the hospital in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. No fancy ceremony, just some doctors, some nurses, and some immediate family members there. And now she's by his side, obviously, with her 10-year-old daughter in the south side of Jacksonville. And she's amazing. She's told him, she goes, if you can do this, I'm not going to help you. In other words, if he can go across the room and grab that thing and bring it to her, you do it, because that's what he wants. And they're in this together. The daughter, Kyla, is just this adorable thing. I encourage people, if you do read the story, or if you don't want to read the story, skip down toward the bottom. You'll find the embedded video of his interview with Feinbaum. You can probably find it on Twitter if you Google it, I'm sure. But that'll give you a visual reality of his reality and his optimism, and it'll make you feel pretty good. It's a good way to start your day if nobody's watched that yet.
Yeah, Andy says, Chris, great story on Patrick. Is it too early to determine if he'll eventually be back on the job at the SEC network? I was going to ask you that, because right now, kind of tell us what his plans are. Obviously, I think I read where Todd Golden's going to have him come speak to the team. He's probably going to get on this speaking circuit probably, but I thought he was great. And I think he only did it 1 year, right? In studio for the SEC network. Was it 2
year? He was fabulous. And it's what he's trained for. I mean, he went to he graduated from the College of Journalism in the broadcasting. So, I mean, he's something he always wanted to do. But as Billy Donovan told me, he goes, not only did he always want to do, he's always wanted a platform to inspire people. And this is it. And now he has both. Assuming they allow him to continue this thing. And again, there's going to be circumstances that may make this it may have to be different than it was before. Because he's in a wheelchair. The studio is in Charlotte, so logistically there's some issues there. But he's willing to take this on. Now, how it works, I don't know how that's going to work. That's between obviously the SEC network and him, but they loved him there. They loved what he was doing in the studio. They loved him as the person behind the scenes. And you're right, he was great. Especially you're comparing him to like Antoine Walker, who's just like, who wasn't great. Patrick Young has the personality and the pedigree and certainly the knowledge to be really special in that job, which he was at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully that'll all work out for him. But yeah, it's a great story.
And also, his mom said she visited him last week, and while she was there for however many hours it was, he got 4 phone calls or text messages of people reaching out for motivational, like talking kind of situations. So, like you said, he was great on TV. And he will be great in front of people, whatever kind of group of people they put him in front of. Because I know he inspired me and whoever he talks to. I had people in my office come up to me, reading your story made me cry. So Patrick Young can do that to people through words. Imagine what he can do when he's standing or sitting in front of people.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. It's a great article, but it's hard to read. It really is, just because of just what kind of kid he was, and just. I don't want to call it a freak accident, but it kind of is. And now his life has just totally changed. But he's extremely positive, and he will do well on that speaking circuit. So if you want to read the article, obviously you can look at Chris's Twitter, or you can go to FloridaGators.com. But it's must read stuff. So we'll while we're on basketball, the schedule came out. They've been practicing a little bit. Just kind of give us your rundown of what you've seen under Todd Golden.
Well, now they're a little different than the last couple coaches. I mean, they're practicing a couple times a week now, and you're allowed 4 hours a week at this particular time frame. Real practice begins, Shane, on September 27th. They've been practicing in the O-Dome, and watching them, do the fundamental kind of stuff that his kind of fundamental early preseason install and stuff. But at the end of practice, he sets the clock at 20 minutes. And they play pickup, and they play as many pickup games to 13 as they can in the allotted time. And he wants tempo, and he wants fast, and he wants what he's asking them to do. Colin Castleton has not participated. He will once he's participating in everything but that. He doesn't need to do that right now. But everybody else is participating. A couple guys have stood out to me. I think Myron Jones looks like a little different player relative to his confidence. Will Norman's going to be a very, very good player. He's the transfer from Belmont. But the person who's surprised people the most, I think, I say surprised, say impressed. The guy just showed up a couple weeks ago. Riley Kugel, he was a commitment at Mississippi State. When Mississippi State made a coaching change, he got out of that commitment, and he kind of followed Corey McRae, who was assistant coach from Mississippi State last year that now works for Todd Golden. And he's the guy who's kind of opened some eyes. You wondered with all these older players, whether you're talking about Kyle Lofton, you're talking about Alex Fudge from LSU, they had 4 transfers kind of like last year, and a core of guys coming back. Where some of these freshmen, there's 3 of them, were going to be able to play. Riley Kugel's going to play. He's going to play a lot. It's looking like right now, and he's really impressed. Kid from Dr. Phillips. They won a state championship there his junior year, and he's just a guy who's kind of maybe slid in a little bit with not much expectation because he just got here for the start of the semester, but impressive so far.
All right, so you said they're practicing mostly in the O'Connell Center and not the facility. Is there a reason? Are they redoing it, or what are they doing over there? Or does he just want them to get used to the environment where they're going to play? He wants them
in the dome playing. That's where they're going to play games. So I mean, it's a little.
I agree with that.
It's a different it's a different thing, but it's not always available, and it's in the basketball form. And there's been talk, in fact, like some players in the past used to complain about practicing in there too much because of the cement floor underneath and what have you. I don't know if there's anything different going on with that, but they have changed something with the base of the floor in there. That may have helped a little bit, but it's a different way of doing things. Billy Diamond hated practicing in the O-Dome. And they won back-to-back national championships. So there isn't one proven way. Correct?
Yeah, but I mean, as an old shooter back in my high school days.
Yes.
You want to shoot
basketball with you, Shane? You had the all-around floor game, didn't you?
Yes, but I hated when we got into the playoffs and you'd play in those, big so-called big coliseums in the state of Mississippi and stuff. that depth perception would kill you, and so anyway, so Castleton.
It never hurt Lee Humphrey.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Castleton, did he have shoulder surgery?
He did.
Okay, so that's why he's kind of doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Okay, I thought he had surgery. What about Jatobo? What's his status?
Full go. They're going to ask him to wear some goggles when he plays, but his deal is like same as it was when he was a freshman. It's going to be about conditioning. And again, when he got hurt, after he had his eye surgery, which was very, very serious, a serious injury, he couldn't do a whole lot in terms of cardio, whatever. But they really like him and like what he could potentially be. And while he's probably say 20 pounds heavier than he and probably they'd like him to be, he's okay playing at that weight right now. He looks better playing at that weight, more comfortable playing at that weight, and able to deal with it a little better. There's still some conditioning issues there for sure.
What do you see from the coaching style of Todd Golden and just how his reactions are at practice right now?
And he's a big relationship guy, and I think all his players are relationship. The coaches are very animated. Kevin Hobdy is the guy who really handles the X's and O's and I say the T's and the I's. I would say. I mean, these guys are all involved. But he's out there a lot, hands-on explaining what they're trying to do in this Princeton kind of thing that Todd Golden is going to bring. Carlin Hartman, a veteran coach, he was with Lon Kruger for 6 years. Then with Lon Kruger's son last year at UNLV, he's very animated on the court and very engaged also. But Todd's out there running stuff with them. Sometimes he jumps in there at the point guard spot, and when they're running some of that 5-on-0 kind of stuff. But it's a very involved staff. The practices are louder. He emphasizes communication, and Mike White emphasized communication too. Like for 4 years at Kayvon Allen, you were never going to have communication as good a player as he was. But Todd Golden's going to demand it, and if you're not communicating, you're probably not going to play. It's just a different kind of style. All these guys are different. Todd Golden has got that youthful confidence to him, and he's in the mix with these guys on a day-to-day basis, talking to them after practice, asking them about what's going on, kind of messing around with them some and what have you. But it's just he's got a different kind of thing going on with these guys than the previous staff. I think you'd say that about all the coaches.
Hey, Chris Doring Mortgage. They do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes with Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com. Have you talked to Todd Golden after his first game in the Swamp?
I texted him during the first game in the Swamp.
Where does he sit with the regular folks?
Well, they had a big recruiting weekend last week, so it was a big deal, and they have a reserved little situation for that. I think all the sports do, and I got a very enthusiastic response from him right in the middle of third quarter, and I said, "You need to stay. Make sure you stay, because sometimes they got to get back. Sometimes they have to leave. They can't stay the whole game because of just the circumstances and whatever." I say you need to stay for at least into the fourth quarter so you can see the show between the periods. He absolutely loved it. I talked to a couple other coaches on his staff. They hadn't been to a Florida game. Remember, they don't have football.
San Fran ain't playing football out there.
Now he was at Auburn, so he'd been to Auburn games.
That's true.
Like Jonathan Sapphire is his analytics guy. He hadn't seen anything like that. He was very, very impressed. Took his girlfriend to that, and those guys were into it. And it was obviously, when you have an environment like that on a big recruiting weekend, that's something you can build on. And I think they have another big recruiting weekend. It's Missouri, and then maybe a couple guys in for LSU. So they really, really enjoy it. He's a huge huge sports fan across the board, really knowledgeable, really follows it. And he just absolutely freaking loved that environment that night.
Yeah. All right. 2-part question here before we get you out of here. 2 questions. One on the text, Titan our text line, one by Meldon Law. Andy wants to know, do you think the Gators will be a top 20 team this year? The other one was anything in the schedule stand out to you?
Well, I'm hearing the preseason picks are coming down the pike, the preseason projections or what have you. And he asked who's going to be in the top 20. They may not be in the top 8 in the SEC in some of this. So there's going to be some, I don't know if you want to call it motivation. It just depends, but nationally, not a lot is being expected of them. And that's kind of weird given they got a 5th-year senior and 2-time all SEC player coming back. And Kyle Lofton's going to be the first true point guard they've had here since Andrew Nemhard. What was the second part of the question? Oh, the schedule. I just think that people are going to the Mike White visit is the second home game in the SEC schedule. I think people will be very interested in that. I hope the fans I don't have high expectations for how the fans are going to be as far as at least a classy kind of a night for that night, because it was so toxic with him toward the end, I think. But it's a difficult schedule. I mean, I'm looking forward to the PK 85, the non-conference. There's some really easy games, and there's some really, really hard ones in the non-conference. I think it's a little different kind of take than they've had in the past, where they tried to play a really hard non-conference schedule and were rewarded by it come postseason invitation time. But the SEC schedule, it's going to be really, really hard. You think about it as optimistic as I am about what this team could be, and if Florida's not in the top 6 or 8 projection, you can think it's Kentucky, it's Auburn, it's Tennessee, it's Alabama, a lot of really high marquee. I'll give you one thing: South Carolina. The South Carolina's top recruit, he committed to North Carolina. He was a class of 23. He declassified and is coming to South Carolina. He would have been the number 1 player in the country next year. He's going to be at South Carolina. So there's a lot going on. 6 new coaches in the SEC this season, Shane. The last 2 years, there were 0 new coaches in the SEC. So it's going to be a different look to the whole league on relative.
Should be fun, man. Appreciate you taking the time. We'll make sure people go and read all Chris's stuff on Twitter at GatorsChris, or check out FloridaGators.com. Appreciate it, my man. We'll see you Saturday night.
See you, Shane. Take care.
That's Chris Harry. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. This day in sports brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat. Schedule your air conditioners tune up today. Give Comfort Temp a call at 352-376-2366. This day in sports, in 2002, rookie quarterback David Carr throws for 2 TDs as the Houston Texans beat the Dallas Cowboys 19-10 to become only the 2nd expansion team to win their inaugural game. So we got NFL football kicking off tonight. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Tomorrow's program will have JC and John Clay from talking Kentucky football. We'll get his preview on the Wildcats and the Gators, talk about their injuries, suspensions, or what have you. But make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll also have our Peachland Dental weekend picks. Hope you enjoyed today's program, folks, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.